I had a really fun and high energy conversation with Ayush Wadhwa, a small town boy who is now the founder of Owl Media, the most trusted media company. He became a content creator when he was just 13. Spotting early trends is a gift that continues to give as he helps many of the iconic brands chart their path. Listen to this incredible chat about how developing self awareness will serve you no matter what you decide to do, the skills you need to acquire to be job ready, and how Ayush had to change his mindset to become a successful business owner from a freelancer. He really opened up about his personal values and his journey from being an introvert to an extrovert and how that's helping him build real human connections. So please let me know what resonated with you and keep meditating. So, welcome Ayush. I'm so glad to have you on Pragyaan. And I think the one thing that really stuck out when I was reading about your story is, people like me are still finding what I really want to do for the rest of my life. And you in your teens pretty much knew what was your calling, and not just that, you also got paid for it, which meant there was a demand for it. So, very interesting story, and I just want to build on that and find out from you, or if you can recreate that moment, or what did that feel like? Because you were just having fun, and suddenly you had somebody like Google come in and say, "Here you go, brother. There's a check for you. You're doing a great job." So,
Yeah.
if you can recreate that about how you
Wow.
felt and what was it like?
Firstly, thank you so much for having me on the show. I think just from the very beginning of the podcast, by the way, really warm vibes. Like, I want to do this conversation, which is always a good thing. But I think after a long time, somebody has asked me this question, which is go back to, and people ask me about my journey, but the fact that I'm getting to go back on those days. So, my story was not of, hey, I have a passion to do this, so I'll do it. I don't think that's true. I think it came from the space of a lot of insecurity because I was a very thin kid. I was not good at sports. I was not very attractive. I didn't have any girl attention coming, and I just hit 13. The
I'm sure that's not the case now.
puberty, no, that still is the case.
Okay.
But I was in a space where I come from a small town where Delhi is so close to me. All of my cousins are in Delhi. I'm looking at their life. I'm looking at how fancy their life is. They are getting to experience such unique things. And it's not like we didn't come from a lot of wealth. It's not like in Rohtak, which is the place where I came from, I had all the luxuries. So I grew up with a lot of envy, a lot of insecurity. So I don't think I was a very positive person growing up. I think I was a person who was very envious. I'm like, even I want that life. Why can't I have that life? And during that time, I've seen my family go through a lot of ups and downs. They've always, my families have always been into businesses. So I think as an entrepreneur, you have to be okay with a lot of uncertainty. When you mix all these emotions and a person who is extremely introverted, you just end up with two things: either a really negative outcome, which thankfully didn't happen with me, or a very solution oriented approach as to, okay, what can I then do? You become very curious. And I think this is the reason, this entire context is the reason I'm so curious in life. Because all my life I was then thinking, okay, so the 20 things which my peers are doing, they're not for me.
Right.
I'm terrible at, I can't even throw a ball. It's so embarrassing. If somebody plays cricket with me today, I don't know how to throw a ball in a straight line. I'm that bad. So I'm like, okay, I can't do that. So instead of going in a negative direction, I started thinking, okay, what else can I then do? So I started fiddling around with my computer. I'm like, I really like this. I was a very studious kid. So
Yeah, you have a nerdy look.
I was always the class topper. So first, max second. Second is, I'm like, okay, now the shit's going down. Like,
I need to up my game.
yes, I was super competitive. Like, if you and I are playing a game right now, no matter how good of a friend you are, I'll be damn competitive. This is thanks to my mother. I was seeing a lot of these Western YouTubers making videos. So MKBHD was, I had not even hit 100K. Now he's the biggest tech YouTuber in the country, in the world, in biggest in terms of the impact he creates.
Right.
So many other creators who are now massive but tiny back then. So I realized that there is a new career that is being born in the West, which people in India don't even know of. So this is 12, 13 years ago. This is pre-Geo. This is pre the Prajakta Kohlis and the Bhuvan Bams of the world. Like, there's something really interesting happening. And then I started seeing that there are Indian YouTubers as well, which are doing a phenomenal job. But of course, not as good as the West. I'm like, okay, there is a space here. So of course, I didn't know the startup term. Okay, there's a market opportunity. There's a no. It was very similar. It was very very simple. कि boss, something people are doing there, people are not doing here, but audience तो यहाँ पर भी है. I can do this here as well.
Very interesting.
So yeah, that's how I started and started making videos online. Eventually found a partner, so we opened the company. Our first company's name was I Got Tech HD. I have no idea. I've always been so terrible with names. Then we cut that down because we didn't get YouTube monetization. I think we broke some guidelines. So we're like, okay, chuck this. Opened another channel that was called Technesia Studios. That was the channel that works. So this channel is still live. There'll be videos which are 10 years old, so people can actually go and watch those videos. Don't. But so that's how my journey started.
Great.
I was in Mussoorie, I think, some hill station, when I was just waiting for. So Google sends you a check on your first $100. That's the minimum cutoff.
Okay.
And AdSense check. I was very anxious. I was like, when will it come? When will it come? And I was on a vacation with my parents, and I hit, I think, $106. At that time, the dollar rate was 60-ish around that. Because I remember 65, 6,700 was the amount that we got. And yeah, back in the day, they used to post. So when we hit, then we had to wait another 4 weeks waiting for the post. Another 1 month of anxiety, and then the check came, and my dad thought I'll now go to prison.
I loved the fact that you actually highlighted a couple of things which really stood out for me. I think one is that actually your strengths came out of the struggle and insecurity that you have. So you could have taken it many ways, but you decided to use it to your advantage. Now, obviously, when you think in hindsight. And I think the second is just being a visionary, or I would say somebody who's able to see the opportunity or where the market is really moving. And I think that's a tremendous skill. For an entrepreneur especially, because if you know where the market is moving, it's much easier for you to quickly go there and fill the gap.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about, and I think I also want to add that on the second piece, which is figuring out that opportunity or figuring out that gap is also a lot about developing your intuition.
Yeah.
And just trusting that intuition as well. So what do you really do even today to develop a lot more self-awareness, I would say?
Oh wow. I used to think that I'm a fairly self-aware person until I took my first session of therapy. And that was the day I realized that I live in a lot of delusion. And I think delusion is really important as an entrepreneur, but that's for the business part of it. As a individually speaking, when you do sit alone with your thoughts, you need to be really honest, which requires a lot of self-awareness. So today what I do is very different, but I'll tell you the pivoting point. I think for me the pivoting point was the pandemic, because my first agency, it had just failed, and after the agency had failed, I had a choice. What should I do? Should I take up a job? So I applied for a couple of jobs, got the job. Should I do freelancing? So I was doing that. So I was evaluating options, and when you're evaluating options after a year of failure, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And I could not express these failures to anyone, because I used to call a friend and I'm like, "Yaar, I'm really low. I think I'm inching depression. I think I don't know what to do in life." And they're like, "But people are dying," and you feel ki okay, what do I do, right? Like your struggles are suddenly minimized because they see from the outside, yeah, this guy has a roof on his shelter. This guy has potentially lived a fancy life, because I'd already done 5 years of freelancing. I used to make decent money. I'd worked harder. Like by that time, it was my 7th year of working professionally. So I had made a life for myself, which was nice.
Yeah.
And people used to feel like, why is this guy in trouble? Whereas inside, I'd lost all my savings, because 1 year of trying to run a company, you lose everything because bootstrapped. So this is what led me to therapy. I'm like, NDA signed है, तो कुछ भी बोल दो, उनको फर्क तो पड़ता नहीं है. And so I started taking that, and I started diving deeper into what I really want. I was very honest with her. And as a matter of fact, I started becoming very honest with myself. Because
So well said.
when you, the moment you say something out loud, you know how I'm not a big believer of manifestation, but I like the activity a lot, which is say out your goals out loud. And I started doing that, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, somehow it just makes you more accountable. That's what
Yeah.
I've seen.
It does, it does. So I did that, and that was my process of becoming more self-aware. Second pivoting point was running the company and hiring people. When I wanted to build a team, I was very clear that I could visualize the type of team that I wanted to build. It involved a lot of first principle thinking, which is we never use I, we always use we, even if it's a single person effort. Just smaller things. So when I was doing these things, you can't make it up. You can put up a front for a year, but not beyond that. So three things that I needed self-awareness for is culture, hiring the right people, and then firing them if things don't work out. Firing people, nobody talks about firing. Everyone talks about hiring. It's really important to learn these three things. So I'm like, if I want to hire the right people, I have to be honest with them. And if I'm being honest with them, I have to be self-aware that that is exactly what I want. I'll give you a very small example. When people come to Owl in the final round, I scare the shit out of them. I don't know if Harshit, I don't know if you remember the line that I said, which is, working at Owl is really hard. So I'm just being super transparent and honest. 90% of the people who have joined the company in the last round, in the one of the final things that I say, ki boss, working in Owl is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Right? Please make sure that you're prepared for a fight. Right? Will you get the right reward for it? 100%. You'll get the right recognition, you'll get a lot of freedom, you'll get to do whatever you want. But it's a hard fight. I don't want to paint a picture of we are a family, we are here to have fun, and then eventually you coming and realizing, oh shit, I have to work. Right? We are working towards a goal. I love discipline, and this is a disciplined company, and we are going to be in a very disciplined fashion going to reach our goal. So you have to be self-aware if you have to say that.
Yeah.
So I feel backtracking because I had to make sure the company goes in the right direction. So I had to be self-aware. So this is what I've done in the past. What I do now is something which I realized that something which recently Gaurav Manjal said very interestingly. He wrote a thread about how he puts his phone on airplane mode and takes a walk almost.
Oh, yes.
And that's the exact same thing I've been doing for the last 6 months. And I was like, wow, this is me. And the reason I could resonate with them so much is because I take 2 flights almost every week, right? So 6 to 8 flights a month. I'm traveling. We have a space in Bombay as well. Then I go to Delhi because 5, 6 team members are there. So I realized that during the time when I'm in a flight is when my mind is the clearest. So today, to practice self-awareness, now that I know how to get there, I just need to put myself in the zone to get there.
Yes.
मुझे अब रास्ता पता है, मुझे अब गाड़ी में बैठना है. So the process of sitting in the car is turning on that airplane mode. I have two phones. It's a new thing that I've started, which is it's a really old phone, but that phone, very few people have access to that phone. It does have WhatsApp, Instagram, everything, but it doesn't have internet. So unless it's connected to Wi-Fi, nobody can do it. It literally has the lowest pack. लोगों को पता भी नहीं होगा कि जियो जैसी कंपनीज अभी भी एक 2G पैक ऑफर करती हैं. Right? So if in emergency I need to send, I can send a WhatsApp message, but I can't download an image. So it's practically useless because we are in the world where we have to look at videos and everything.
Yes.
So it may sound very obnoxious for somebody, but these things work for me because I get lured in. I'm a kid at heart. If you show me a candy, I'll run towards that candy. So I'd rather glue myself to the chair.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that also because I also do that where you create an environment around you that you don't fall for those traps.
Yeah.
I love what you said because even I do that a lot where if I'm trying to get into develop a new habit, like currently I've been struggling with waking up early in the morning and that's something what I do now is just call up a friend and be like, I will go for a run with you. Because if I know that there's somebody else waiting for me, I will show up no matter what. And so similar to what you said about the phone, right? I totally get that you want to make sure that you don't fall for the trap and you know you're going to fall for it. That's a big kind of self-awareness. I also think that it plays out very well in leadership.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times a good leader is not necessarily someone who can handle the crisis, but also someone who can foresee the crisis coming up and then deflect it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that happens with a lot of what you said, self-awareness, developing intuition, also experience and wisdom, which I'm sure, with already so
Very
much success.
I call it accountability loops.
Yes.
So Harshit, the first day he came in, I'm like, you are responsible for this. So you have to remind me to upload, not the other way around. So what I do is I set a lot of accountability loops. So again, similarly, all of our account managers, I've told them that remind me of this, remind me of this. I don't know if Harsh will see this more and more, but I'll keep sending a message, remind me at 3:30 for this.
Yeah.
I could easily set that reminder on a calendar, but I know on a day where I have 50 tasks and I can only do 20, the priority will come when there are people attached to each task. So I feel setting these accountability loops, and that's what I do. I don't do any activity alone anymore. I used to, but now I feel like the moment you start doing it with people, there's somebody to hold you accountable.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And that also brings me to the question of, you were a freelancer for about 7, 8
Yeah.
years, and then you decided to become a business owner. And I think the mindset that is required, and I've been an entrepreneur straight out of college, so for me it's the other way around, where a lot of the ownership, total ownership, wanting autonomy in an organization or for my role. Those are things I bring from my entrepreneurial sort of stint, right? Because I'm like, I want to own all of this and I will run with it. Don't worry about it. But if you're coming from a job, sometimes you don't have that. So what is the mindset that you saw shift for you when you were just a freelancer?
Yeah.
Sort of maybe working at your own whims and fancies, and then now where you're responsible for
Yeah.
100, 150 people, 200 people, the team that you have at Owl.
Wow. So we have about a 70 people team across Bombay and Bangalore. Great question, because I think this was one thing which took me the longest to adapt to, which is moving from a singular mindset to a mindset where I'm thinking team first. So just to give you some reference to my life, I have always, because I start now, you know how I started, right? Now that kid who can't potentially and possibly make friends ends up forming a world around him which is very self-sufficient. So a perk of being an introvert that no one talks about is that the moment you crack it, you don't need anyone.
Yeah.
I live alone, and I love living alone. I don't feel the need to, if I don't go out for 20 days, I'm okay. And it's simply because of, it came from a dark space, but now it's become a strength. But what that also does is that you become so self-sufficient that you're like, सब कुछ मैं ही करूँगा. And in a company, that's lethal. Because the moment you do everything, you are the owner of everything. The moment you are the owner of everything, nobody in the team grows because they're just doing, not thinking. And the company doesn't grow. So the team is not growing. The individual that you have hired and you have promised that you will grow a lot over the next 2 years, they are not growing. The company isn't growing. Nobody is benefiting.
Yeah.
You are stressed. You are overworked. You are potentially working 16 hours.
And you're stretching
Yeah.
yourself constantly. So you're still
Constantly.
doing the job of 70 people, being
Correct.
one person,
Yes.
when you can easily have that skill set join.
Exactly. And that's a big problem. That should not happen ideally. And it took me the longest of the times to change this mindset, which is I will do everything, I know everything, मुझसे better तो कुछ कर ही नहीं सकता, to becoming fairly secure that I started hiring better people in the company than me. It took me a long time. How it happened? I think it just happened simply by force. धक्का लगा था कि यार clients छोड़ के जा रहे हैं, we are not able to meet their expectations. Why? Because I used to flight 6 hours late.
Yeah.
That's not a good enough reason for a. So the initial, I realized, okay, we need a team that can represent Owl beyond me. In fact, now to the point that I don't want to be the face of Owl anymore. It's a very hard decision in my head that I've taken in the last, just in fact, 30 days, that I'm done.
But it's a smart one.
I'm done being the face of Owl. Owl, if the team, and now we're at a point where it was so funny, and it's gonna sound so controversial on camera. I'm really scared of saying this, but the last 3 projects that we have released, I didn't even see the final video, and the ad went out, was live.
But that's a great testament to your team and the culture you've developed.
It is. But when you go back home, you're like, oh man.
For a control freak, it causes anxiety.
So I was such a control freak, it caused anxiety, and now I've just trying to let go. So now to the point that I say this with a heavy heart, and I write the message. I don't want to look at it. You just send. You just upload, and then and then of course mistakes also happen. So I'm like, I'll be okay with the mistake, and I just look sideways. I'm like, let them take control. And the best part is not the client testimonies. The best part is that 3-4 people in the company have turned out to be so incredible. Like, I want to name a person, for example. Shreya is in our team. She started off knowing very little about the industry, but she was just very curious. She's like, give me more responsibility. And she's the perfect testimonial of somebody starting out, very curious. I will, I am going to control this. Learning on the way, making mistakes, but also learning, not repeating mistakes, and now owning a massive part of our PNL. Another example is Laksha, really young, but she heads client servicing for us. Usually in other agencies, a client servicing person is at least 7 to 8 years elder to her. I'm telling you, if she's on a call, you will not be able to tell her age. Because, and that's what I always believed in, that you should never judge people by their age.
Not at
right?
all.
And she does a phenomenal job. And the reason I feel the day she truly started to excel in the team was when I let go of her. I'm like, go. Okay, you lead it. I will not. Today she sent a really assertive message on the client group, which is a message that usually the team would, you know, check with me. Ki, hey, can we be hard with the client? Because they are, you know, they are the ones who have made a mistake. But she sent it, handle the situation confidently, and then just she sent me like a message. Oh, so this happened today, and this happened, and this I closed it. Okay, bye, good night. So this was the
Biggest
biggest
shift.
achievement. I don't think the client and the work getting done was the biggest achievement. I think the biggest achievement was me seeing these these set of people becoming incredibly good at their job, and it's extremely fulfilling.
Yeah, you sound like a parent, you know.
Yeah,
I
I
know
don't know.
sometimes business owners become like that or entrepreneurs become like that, but
Yeah.
do you think you're getting this right because you have really thought through the kind of people you want to hire on the team? And that could be one aspect. And the second, of course, is also just the culture you've developed at Ould. And, you know, the reason I'm asking these questions is not only from a lens of I want to have a business conversation with you, but also that there are many young people in tier 2 tier 3 cities, they want to come to Delhi, they want to come to a Bombay and live their dream, but sometimes they feel very conscious of their own skills. Oh, I don't know how to look, like you were saying, or I don't know how to speak English very well. I think coming back to the question, is it just, are you really very very clear on what are the kind of people you want to hire,
Yeah.
and like what have you really developed as a culture so that you allow these people to grow and stick around?
I think people in Owl are very kind. Um, and the reason, by kind, I don't mean we can't fight or we can't argue or we don't fight or we don't argue. It's not like, but nobody raises their voice. People are assertive, they can be heavy with what they say, but they don't raise their voice. When they have to cut ties, they cut ties politely. And the reason I want to hire kind people, and which is a very important metric at Owl if you want to join Owl, is because I'm a solo founder. As a solo founder, it is really important for you to have support around you, right? You need people who are empathetic, understanding, kind, especially when you're building a bootstrap company. I mean, I can on record say this, building every kind of company is hard, but building a bootstrap company has that one really deep trouble which can cause a lot of stress, which is the stress of not having money. And that stress is so bad because I've gone through that stress at different parts of Owl. The fact that you have to process a payroll, and no matter how much top line you're doing, in a country like India, cash flow is always an issue. Clients never pay on time, never. The best of the clients don't pay on time.
I agree.
And I realized that having a set of people who are supportive, understanding is really important. However, I feel I'm still learning as to what type of people I want to hire. I try to maintain a document of attributes and qualities that I look for. Some are in me, some are written, but I think it only gets finer with time. And the reason I say this is because we are going to make a hire right now. Potentially, when this podcast goes out, the person would have joined the company, who is very different from the culture at Owl, but he's the kind of person that now Owl should have. He's the type of person that now people in Owl should become. So 2 years from now, Owl should be where that person is because of the direction which we have taken as a company. So I feel this also changes with time,
Yeah.
but you need to have some kind of clarity. I feel makes decision making very simple. I don't even look at a task sometimes when I'm hiring people, right? But I do. Nobody gets hired in Owl without one conversation with me. So of course now I can still interview each and every person that joins Owl. We're a small company, 60, 70 odd people. I'm sure if somebody who's running a 500 people organization can't do it, but I still feel that hiring is the most important thing that you have to do as a founder. And it's really important to hire right. especially in a company like ours where the asset is your culture, your case studies, and people. That's it. That's the end of every agency, right? So yeah, that's what I feel about hiring.
I agree. I also feel like a good leader or a good manager also makes themselves redundant, right? Because only if you can allow and empower your team to be good at what they're currently doing and then stepping into your shoes, then you can think about what's next for me. Otherwise, you'll just be doing all your life, just this all your life, right? And that's no
Correct.
fun. So
Yeah.
I'm sure for you as well, while I'm sure you're really passionate about what you do at Owl, but at some point you'll want some extension. And what is that next thing for you as well? And at least what I'm seeing in the agency front is a lot around AI, right? I mean, I want to
Yeah.
understand from you, how are you thinking about embracing AI because it's not going anywhere? Our common friend Ansh. I had attended one of his workshops, and my God, he scared everyone in the room, including me, because he was like, "Oh, now with Mid Journey, if you want to do a model shoot, all you need to do is just take that dress off and put a denim jacket on." And I'm like, great, but what happened to all the money that models are going to make, all the time that photographers are going to be able to make, because all of this is just going to get compressed into one shoot as opposed to an 8-hour shoot where everyone was making money off it, right?
Yeah.
So how is AI really going to impact, I would say, specifically
Yeah.
agency world, and how are you preparing Owl to embrace it?
Awesome. I think this is a great question and a question that everyone is trying to answer. I think um, it'll be foolish of me to answer this question articulately because we don't know,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Ansh,
too
for
early.
example, Ansh didn't know a year ago that Midjourney could do this. Nobody knew, right?
Correct.
And
I
that's,
think even Sam Altman, well, not about Midjourney, but Chat GPT, because he was in Delhi a
yeah,
few months back, and I got a chance to just attend some of his conversations. And you just see the guy, right? There's so much humility in terms of saying, "Look, I don't know what this can do, but I can tell you it's going to change the world."
yeah,
So there's a very tight tension there where people
correct.
are like, "Okay, what is this going to give us?" But at the moment, it's going to give us better than what we have today.
Correct. So I started realizing, okay, let's think 5 years out. And I don't know what AI can do, but what can we do to make sure we adapt fast? So I started thinking in different directions. In fact, not because of AI, but because of other reasons as well. We thought and put up a cap. We don't want to be a company which has more than 100 people. That's not what Owl is. Owl is when you come. It's a very very popular dialogue. Ki, uh, we are the ones who you call when shit goes down,
Yeah.
right? So, Owl is the company that you come when you need quality. In fact, we want to be the company. Have you seen Suits?
Yes.
We want to be Harvey. We want to be, when we walk into the room, we discuss solutions, we take a problem. That's the vision, which is we become an agency that's known for incredible client servicing, that's known for bringing in solutions which are not ये video बना दिया, solutions which are driven from consumer and business insights. We understand your business problem statement, not your marketing problem statement. We understand your business problem statement, then recommend you the marketing solution, then execute that solution for you. So these were some changes in strategy that we're doing, and easier said than done. A lot of people have tried it, very hard to execute it. But when I looked at AI, I'm like, this vision of mine makes so much sense in the world of AI. Why? So a small team has a benefit, which is L&D is a lot more faster. So I feel because we are going to keep our team small, because of another part of our vision, it is going to help in the way the world is also changing, because a small team is more agile. A small team is able to adapt to things faster. So I don't know what's happening in AI, but I can tell you that my team is ready to adapt
Sure.
because they have been very successfully able to adapt till now. This agility in the world, which is constantly moving, is going to be a superpower. And it also aligns with our vision, which is moving forward, we want to focus lesser on quantity, more on quality, right? Because we do feel that higher ticket, projects will still hold a lot of value, because there the value of strategic human input is a lot more. The
Yeah.
value of relationships is a lot more. The value of how you service the client is a lot more.
Yeah. A lot of people who are, watching this and are looking at you and saying, okay, if I want to be prepared for the world that is to come, what are some of the skills I need to look at? What are some of the, more than skills, I think, attitude? what is the softer skills, what is the attitude I need to bring in me to be prepared for the world that's going to come. Because I found that a lot of times people coming out of colleges are very energetic, very enthusiastic, but are not necessarily job ready because sometimes our institutes don't teach them the softer skills. And so I
Yeah.
really want to sort of look to you to, in your very, Ayush Instagram reel style, tell me 3 things that we should get.
I'll tell you just one.
Okay, cool.
I'll tell you just one which I feel is the most important. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, one thing which can change your life is your ability to understand what do people want. If you can sit across a table and tell what can I give this person that will make them happy, that will make them feel satisfied, that will make them feel fulfilled, is all the skill you need. The day you do that is the day you have, I feel the day you have won at life, because that's what I'm trying to win at every single day. I'll break it down in multiple examples. As a creator, you are now creating content. If you can understand what does your particular target audience wants to hear, but you understood that this is what my audience needs to hear, you've aced the so-called algorithm. There's no algorithm. It's nothing but talking to your audience the right way.
Yeah.
If you hire the people, if you hire the right people, but you fail to give them what they need, so you understanding the right needs of your team can really help you succeed. You understanding the right needs of your client and what you need to say that will make you, that will make them buy from you. So I feel one skill which I am trying to develop is deep empathy in trying to understand what the person who's sitting across the table wants and needs, and how do I fulfill that. Most of your life problems will be solved. At least that's what I feel.
100%. I think I agree on the empathy piece for sure. But for me, developing empathy comes a lot from my meditative practice. So, what is it that you are doing to develop that and to know
Yeah.
that you're sharpening it over a period of time?
Yeah. I think that way, that part of my life, I'm fairly indisciplined. I tried meditation, I tried waking up early. I think it's not for me. The company's named Owl for a reason. There's an owl in us. I mean, we have to stand by our name. But I used to wake up at 3, then I started waking up at 12, then 11. And this one team member came in, Anirudh, who used to drop a message at 10 a.m. And he used to feel so embarrassed that, yeah, my dad used to say that if you run a company, you come in at 9:30 if the reporting time is 10, and you leave the office at 8:30. Of course, it's not practically possible, but figuratively speaking, I have to be available for the team more than they are available for me, right? But I feel meditation can mean different things to different people.
Yes.
I feel, and of course, I don't think this is technically right.
No, no, but I also want to just, interrupt here and say meditation doesn't mean you have to do it in the morning. It's not, we have such misnomers around meditation and we create such high boundaries around just
Yeah.
starting to meditate because
Correct.
we have this perception कि मेरे को ये छोड़ना पड़ेगा और ऐसे करना पड़ेगा और यहाँ जाना पड़ेगा. कुछ नहीं करना. जब 10 मिनट मिले, बैठ जाओ, आंखें बंद करो और meditate.
So I used to meditate, but then I just couldn't fit into my schedule, and then I lost the habit of it. So now, more than meditation, I think what meditation helped me achieve was, it used to center me, right? And I'm like, okay, what are other activities which lead to this centering, whatever, right? ऐसे एकदम ऐसे सिंपल भाषा में सोचूं कि यार किस चीज़ से सुकून मिलता है.
हाँ, inner peace.
Inner peace किससे मिलता है? तो I love gymming, right? So I'm not a gym freak. I don't have big muscles, but just going there, I love doing my exercises. I'm fairly regular at it. Doing that gives me a lot of inner peace. Funny things. I love 15 minutes of Netflix. I consume, I think, 30 minutes of Netflix a day. Those 15 minutes, even if I'm watching it in the middle of the office, I don't want anybody entering my room. I just consume great content.
Yeah.
I think content gives me so much happiness. Content gives me so much joy. Revisiting my earlier shows, watching newer creators, watching content. It just, again, different things mean different for different people. Music is such a fundamental part of my life.
But by the way, I love all your recommendations on your Instagram
Yeah,
reels. It's
it's-
actually helped me discover newer music. So keep doing that, please.
It's quite funny that people know me because of that, and I'm like, what happened to all the content that I did? I did so much effort, but yeah, I love it. I love it. So I started when I couldn't do meditation. I started focusing my energy every day on these things which give me energy. A thing which I haven't shared with people that gives me a lot of energy is just writing stories. Stories about love. I love thinking how the world will look like if we had a lot more love than we had right now. It's just random things, not related to work at all. But yeah, they're just small things that I do.
Oh, this is not random. I really hope and pray, and I think as part of our meditative practice, we do that a lot. That you're just sending out a lot of compassion and love in the world because that's
Yeah.
what we need today. So you actually mentioned a bunch of things that you do. Is that also something that helps you keep yourself creative constantly? Is that where you find sometimes a lot of your inspirations, or these are things you just do to ground you and to center yourself?
There was a very interesting quote that I saw long back. I wanted to go to film school, and I was watching a lot of videos about film school, and then I saw this one video which said don't go to film school. And they said films are not studying filmmaking. Films are not studying how a camera works, how this lighting works. Hey, this is golden ratio, this, that. No. Films are nothing but life. So if you want to be a great filmmaker, don't go and study the technicals of filmmaking. Go study life. Watch other movies, talk to people, know other stories, know different types of stories, travel a lot, uh, because that's where you draw your inspiration. Most people, when they want to be creative, they would start really diving deeper into how to be creative from a technical standpoint or filmmaking, because I used to do filmmaking. So just speaking from that lens, and I realized, oh, so to make great films, the art of filmmaking, secondary. The art of storytelling, which you derive from life around you, is what is really important.
Yeah.
So, part of the reason why I do my podcast is it's an excuse to spend 2 hours with people. And when I spend those 2 hours, I get deeper into their life. So I realized that I have to make sure I'm very curious about life. If that involves me being around curious people, great. If that involves me on days when I'm not curious to be forcibly asked questions and better questions, I will do it. So, yeah, I think just curiosity and pushing myself to travel, try to just visit a new place, try to talk to people, try to talk to a lot more. I've become very extroverted now, so there's this perspective to life. I used to be a very conservative kid when you're born in a city like Rohtak. Um, so I think just exposing yourself to diversity, being open to change, strong opinions loosely held, making sure that if somebody is educating you on something, accept it, is really important.
Yeah, and be open.
Be open.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think what I'm also hearing you say is
Yeah.
like you're constantly allowing yourself to have newer experiences.
Yeah.
I found when I listen to your story, I find a bunch of contradictions. Right, the one being when you mentioned bits,
Yeah.
which is you got a check when you were an early teenager on creating content, and yet you went ahead and did engineering, which is what every man in this country is just expected to do. Either you
Yeah.
become an engineer or a doctor. So was there a tussle within, with your family, with your dad, or you were like, "Acha, ye to hai, hi, so I'll just accept it."
People don't realize in India, most people are not living their dream. People are either living the dream that the society has shown them, their parents have shown them, their relatives have shown them, और just उनके मोहल्ले के जो 3 दोस्तों ने उनको सपना दिखाया था कि मैंने भी एक दुकान खोली थी, उससे मैंने इतना पैसा कमाया तो तू भी दुकान खोल ले. And that's how we live our life. I call this living your life in the rear view mirror, which is you look at what I've done. Okay, so I should do this next. These guys have now been good at shooting, so they're like the next step for them is to shoot an ad film. But what if this guy has a great career in finance? People don't think that. And the also logical reason for people to not think that is compounding, right? Which is when you go in depths, the results are also disproportionate sometimes. But if I look at if I remove the compounding bit and if I just look at this, I was in a space where my parents, I was living my parents. जब मैं छोटा था तो it was my parents' dream to be like कि my son will become this, and I absorbed it to the point that I thought it's my dream. I thought कि engineering करके अगर आप कुछ कर लेते हो तो फिर तो life मतलब crazy set हो जाएगी. तो वो मेरा सपना था ही नहीं. It was never my dream. It was my parents' dream. Not to say that they forced me. They gave me all the options. They also told me I wanted to go to film school. They told me कि ठीक है चले जा.
अच्छा.
But हाँ मतलब but then it was so expensive. I never told this to them. But मैंने फीस देखी मैंने कहा तो बहुत महंगा है यार. और मुझे पता भी नहीं कि मुझे सच में फिल्म मेकर बनना है कि नहीं. मुझे पता भी नहीं कि what if this is a hobby it dies around. What if it doesn't help. वहाँ पे तो जॉब भी नहीं मिलती. सो मैंने कॉलेज बड़ा ध्यान से चुना. मैंने कहा इफ आई गो टू अ कॉलेज दैट कॉलेज बेटर गिव मी ऑल द फ्रीडम. सो आई हैड लाइक 3-4 कॉलेज ऑप्शन. मेरे पास एक ऐसे नाम का आईटी भी था. सो आई
अच्छा.
कुड हैव गॉटन द आईटी एंड टैग व्हिच आई नो अ लॉट ऑफ पीपल रन फॉर. मैंने कहा नहीं मुझे नहीं चाहिए. टॉप 5 आईटीज नहीं मिल रहे हटाओ. बिट्स देखा मुझे. बिट्स में ना 2-3 अनॉमलीज थी. मैंने कहा यार इंटरेस्टिंग कॉलेज है. 0% अटेंडेंस. Great. You choose your calendar. Wow. It's a college where there are no clubs, parties outside. It's in Pilani. Great. No candies outside. Where will I run? I'm like, okay, so all my life, I've been so like unidirectional.
Dimensional.
I'm like, bro, मुझे सिर्फ पढ़ाई करनी आती है और अब मैं वीडियो बना रहा हूँ. मेरी पर्सनालिटी नहीं है कुछ. I don't have a personality. I don't want to be a person that doesn't have a personality. That's why I went to BITS. And initially, I wanted to leave college. First year was very hard because while what I'm saying is also a bit delusional because I only looked at the survivor bias होता है तुम्हें.
Of course.
छः लोगों से बात करी तो अच्छे से बात करी बट 500 वो भी हैं जो दुखी भी हैं कॉलेज से. तो शुरू में काफ़ी टफ था. फिर लोगों ने
इसलिए क्लास डोर होता है. सॉरी.
हाँ तो कॉलेजेस के लिए मैं तो रिसर्च करके गया नहीं था. मैं वहाँ पे गया. आई जस्ट मेड श्योर कि आई डू जस्ट वन थिंग. आई एम लाइक कि मैं रूम पे नहीं बैठूंगा. मैंने कहा आई विल मेक श्योर मैं जाऊँ मैं घुस जाऊँगा ग्रुप्स में. मुझे शर्म ही नहीं है कोई. मैंने कहा व्हाट डू आई हैव टू लूज. मैं आया हूँ यहाँ पे मुझे आई हैव नथिंग टू लूज.
So the stakes were so low in your head
I'm like,
that you were
कुछ
like
नहीं
मैं
होगा.
बेशरम हूँ. मैं सब.
बेशरम है.
Yeah, no, I understand because institutes like that teach you a lot of lateral thinking.
Yeah.
And I think which I can see
I think
also in
that's
your
the
work.
word, yeah.
You bring a solutioning mindset and far more big picture thinking. Then here I'm a marketing agency. I'll solve this for you. The rest you take care of. क्योंकि मेरे को सोचना ही नहीं है उसके बारे में. It's out of my scope. So tell me, you spoke about relationships. Is that a lot of? Do you feel you're still not ready to be that vulnerable? Is that why you're not that expressive? And what is it really? What does vulnerability really mean to you?
No, I think I'm very vulnerable. Not with everyone. I have a very close knit. As an entrepreneur, you can't be very vulnerable. People ask you to, but today, if we didn't have a good month, even if we can afford to pay salaries for the next 6 months, if I go and tell the team, ki, hey, by the way, we had a shitty month and I may not have the money to, cover the salaries. But now, even if we don't do any projects at all, zero, we'll still have money to survive. So this concept also got developed last year when I was going through a lot of turbulence because of the startup crash. But I realized that you can't be very vulnerable. In fact, it's your job to protect your team.
True, I agree with you. I think, to what you're saying is a lot of challenges we also have. Like when I worked at WhatsApp, one of the values was that you need to bring all of yourself to work and be authentic, and that basically, to most people, feels like I'm going to bring my anger, I'm going to bring my stress, I'm going to loathe you, I'm going to just burden you with my emotional stress. That's not what it means. It means that I can tell you very honestly if you're my manager that look, Ayush, today I'm having a really tough day, and can we just take it a bit easy? If there's something I can do, can I do this tomorrow and not today? That's being authentic. But you've spoken a lot about relationships again. I want to ask you, and I want to push a little bit more on that. What have they really taught you, and has there been a struggle which has taught you something about yourself?
I think just to related with the vulnerability point, I have been very vulnerable, and that has also caused a lot of hurt in life. I feel the other relationships, which is your friends and family, I think that is what I've cracked. I love my family, and I have this close group of friends. They'll call me at 4 a.m., make me fly to another city. I'll do it in a heartbeat. So, but I've been vulnerable to both, so I don't know. But you asked learnings, right? Different groups, like these groups, both of them are giving different learnings. I think my family, getting closer to my family, which didn't happen initially, happened slowly with time. Pandemic was a great driver friends, I've always had like really, really good friends. Always blessed with really good friends, especially after school. Um, so they have given me a lot of learning as to what can caring for people bring to your life, which is a lot of security.
Yes.
What it can bring when things are good at home, you are things are good at work.
Because you're feeling good, no?
Yeah.
You know, it's you who's showing up in all these different avatars, and if you fundamentally feel good of who you are and where you are, you will just show up as a better version of yourself, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
That's been a lot of my learning as well.
There's no such thing as work life and personal life. People hate me for
No.
saying this. I'm like, there's life.
Yes.
Sometimes you sprint for 20 days because work is on your head, and then 10 days are super chill. It has to be dynamic. If it's the same, then aren't you getting bored? Okay, so today, every day from 6 to 9, I spend time with my family. Why? I want to spend 15 hours. Or maybe that's who I am, right? So I love sprints. I'd rather do sprints with people. But anyway, coming to the point, I think so. They've given me the learning, which was if you care for people and if they care for them, you without any filter of I am friends with you because you are successful. I am friends with you because you know answer to that question. I am friends with you because you will give me your classroom notes the next day when I come, right? So these
Yeah.
3 4 friends, uh, they really act as pillars when you need. When it comes to the romantic bit of it, I don't think I've cracked it, because I think that requires a lot more time, and that is one thing that I don't sadly have right now. How I approach life, or how I try to approach life, and a lot of people hate me for this because most people around me are super emotional and they're very qualitative. I'm very quantitative. I'm like, listen, for the next 2 years, I have certain goals that I have to meet. Why I don't want to answer to you, but there are certain things and responsibilities that I need to get done with. So my focus is work. And I also tell this to my partners that I've had in the past, and they have hated me for saying this, which is my first priority, sadly, is work. Will I be available to you? Yes. But I do have my priorities clear, and I do convey my priorities to the person that I'm with. I think, and I've accepted that अभी मुझे अगले 1 1.5 साल नहीं सोचना, because मैं सोच सकता नहीं. अगर हो जाता है तो great. But in general, very vulnerable with these two groups, not vulnerable at all with anyone else.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say is a lot like me, where intensity over consistency.
Yeah,
You
correct,
know,
for sure.
and everyone says you should be consistent, and every time I read that, and I'm like, I'm in denial. I'm like, नहीं नहीं, मैं intensity से पहुंच जाऊंगी जहाँ मुझे
हाँ, मुझे भी
पहुंचना
लगता है,
है.
मतलब पता नहीं, शायद 20 साल बाद सोच रहा हूँ, अरे यार.
Correct,
करते
exactly.
हुए.
I want to wrap it up by asking you this question. I read this in one of the news articles where you said, you know, what motivates you to keep working harder is because you think you have a bigger purpose here, which is bigger than you. Do you kind of know what that is, or you feel like you have seen some glimpses of it, or a trailer of it?
So, as a kid, when I used to sleep, every single night, I used to sleep with belief. Belief that I can do whatever I want, and that whatever is really big. And that belief doesn't come easy. Because
Yeah.
right now I was talking to an entrepreneur and they were like, what is your goal? I'm like, I can think 500 crores, but I can't think 10,000 crores. How do I think 10? So people think belief comes easy. आज मैंने अपने आप को बोल दिया कि I believe in this. No. Series of hard work now. So this was one thing. I had this crazy belief in me that I'm 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 meant for bigger things, but with a lot of self-awareness. And I had this feeling that this, and probably it's wrong because people in life, especially my therapist, have told me that it's not right to think like this, which is I feel I'm only able to achieve X if I sacrifice X. So today, I will sacrifice everything in life to make sure Owl grows to a point, or other parts of my life grows to a point where I want them to grow. So that makes decision making very easy. Sacrifice sleep, done. Trip cancel करना, movie देख, done. कोई नहीं. But I feel कि I have a lot of belief that I will do big things. But that belief comes with the thing that I will have to sacrifice a lot. So that may not be the right thing to think.
You mentioned so nicely about sacrifice, because I think a lot of times that sacrifice limits what we allow ourselves to
Yeah.
be and what we are ready to receive as well, because we are limiting ourselves.
Correct.
this thought of abundance doesn't come. And
Correct.
so I kind of understand where that coming from and why maybe that shift is required. But
Yeah.
I loved the conversation with you, Ayush. It was absolutely
Thank you so
very, very
much.
high energy. I could identify with a bunch of things that you said. Also, I wish you a lot of luck in finding your purpose, but also achieving that dream that you had every night of what your purpose is here, and sort of finding that purpose of being bigger than who you think you are
Yeah.
currently. So I hope you achieve that for yourself.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, wonderful chatting with you.
Thanks for having me. This was a lovely conversation, and I hope people take something out of it. I think that would be.
Oh, a lot out of it. I took a lot out of it, so I'm sure people who are listening in will have many nuggets to take away and start executing or rather implementing in their life. So thank you for being so open and sharing some of the stories which you've not shared before. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.